Welcome back to the Show Up or Shut Up podcast with me, Wendy Solganik. This is season 5, episode 9, and today I'm bringing you an interview with artist Kate McCurrach. I'm so happy to announce that Kate will be joining us as a Fodder School teacher for the first time in Fodder School 5. Kate is an artist that has been inspiring us in Fodder School for years as a participant and really a leader. And she recently started contributing her talents into the talent pool with some bonus content that was shared with the other participants. When I approached Kate to become a Fodder School 5 teacher, I didn't know anything about Kate's life story or her artistic background. So what you are about to hear is Kate's story being revealed to me for the first time. Hold on to your seats because it is quite a harrowing story. I think you will fall in love with Kate as I have. If you want to check out her work while you listen, please visit Kate on Instagram at McCurrach. That's spelled MacCurrack. And I highly recommend finding her retired blog, scientific-culture.blogspot.com. Once again, that's scientific-culture.blogspot.com. So you can really feel what an amazing contributor we have in Fodder School 5. Without further ado, here is my interview with Kate. Welcome to Show Up or Shut Up, a podcast about prolific makers, specifically in the world of mixed media art. I'm your host, Wendy Solganik, also known as Willa Wanders on Instagram, and I'm here to explore the ups and sometimes the downs of being a mixed media artist. I've been a maker my entire life, and I've had 4 careers involving art. In each episode, we'll talk to artists about how they became prolific makers, why they make art, and the struggles they go through. We'll talk about being an online creative, social media, and how to navigate that world if that's what you're into. Whether you're a lover of mixed media art, watercolor painting, handmade books, art journaling, fiber art, assemblage, collage, or everything all at once, I hope you'll join me on this journey of mixed media making. If you like this podcast, hit the subscribe button and leave a review. You can find me, Wendy, at willawanders.com and on Instagram at willa.wanders and at fodder.school. Welcome to the podcast, Kate McCurrach.
Hi, Wendy. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you on for many, many reasons. Well, one of those reasons is because you are someone that I've now known for many years because you've been a Fodder School student for quite a while. And you are, I'm not sure, you're one of the only Fodder School students who's graduated to the point where you're now going to be a teacher in Fodder School 5, which I'm so excited about. But I'm also really excited because you are the final episode that I'm recording for this podcast series.
Oh, goodness. Pressure's on, hey?
Maybe it's like that save the best for last thing.
Hopefully.
Okay. So anyway, I'm thrilled to have you here. And I guess maybe one of the reasons why I'm thrilled is because I love getting to know people like a lot better than I already do. And I feel like this is an opportunity for me to get to know you a lot better than I already do. So let's start right at the beginning. So where were you born?
I was born in where I still live currently, which is Kamloops, BC, which is in the interior of British Columbia in Canada. And I did
Okay.
move some other places, but ended up coming back here. So,
All right. So I didn't even put that together that you live in British Columbia. So we do have a lot of people in the community that are like live in Vancouver or Vancouver Island. But I'm guessing from what you're telling me is you don't live anywhere near Vancouver. Is that correct?
it's about a 5-hour drive. So in Canada, that's like nothing. You're like, oh, it's pretty short distance. But I know in like Europe, that would be a big deal. So it seems really close, but it is about 5-hour highway drive, depending on traffic.
Okay, and I'm guessing you're not native. You're not from an indigenous population, correct?
No, we're like 6th generation Canadians. So
Okay, so
way
that's a
back.
lot. So
Yeah.
where did your ancestors come from before they got to Canada?
The UK, Scotland and Ireland and England.
Okay, so 6 generations ago. So was it the
Yep.
early 1800s?
Yeah, actually, my great grandpa, my grandma's father, was one of the first Royal Mounted, what is it, RCMP? Royal Canadian Mounted Police in like a fort in the northern part of Canada or of BC forever ago. My grandma was actually born on like a RCMP fort forever ago.
So
Her dad
your
her dad was 50 when she was born, so, like, that also wasn't very common. She was born in 1917. He was born in 1857, I think. So which is 1867? He's the same he was born the same year that Canada became Canada. But very, like, yeah, interesting long-term living here.
so would they have been considered kind of like pioneers, like where they came over from Scotland and they were kind of rugged and pretty adventurous and looking for new opportunity and they made their way like by boat and then all the way by land, like from the east coast of the United States or Canada. Maybe they landed in Canada and then made their way all the way to the other side of Canada.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, the fur trade was pretty popular. Fur and gold was popular in like the 1600s, I believe, in BC, but it wasn't BC then because it wasn't full, like Canada didn't become Canada until 1867. So there was definitely people living here before that. It just wasn't like qualified as a country.
So do you know approximately when your first ancestors got to Canada?
I have no idea. I just
Gotcha.
know that it's a long time. My mom used to do, like, family tree stuff in, like, probably the early '90s, and I remember seeing these huge charts that she'd written out of, like, every ancestor that she could get a hold of, and, most of them on her side grew up farming on, like, the prairies and then moved their way west. But, yeah, it's interesting.
I find it very interesting. I've got my own personal reasons why, but I'm just very interested in the movement of humans around the globe. And like, there's just so much political drama about these issues now, and they fascinate me, like how much humans move. Like, that's just what humans do.
Yeah, I find, especially within the last few years, a lot of really horrible racist things have come to light that people knew about, but they didn't really acknowledge. So I find it harder now to be like proud to be Canadian, I guess. The city that I live in, like they used to take First Nations kids from their families and put them in these Catholic residential schools where they just treated them horribly and tried to, like, get rid of their language and get rid of their culture to, like, westernize them or make them, a certain way that they wanted them to be. And I think it wasn't that long ago, like, maybe 4 years ago, they finally decided to, like, dig up a section of the residential school, and they found 215 bodies of children that had been killed there and, like, buried. So,
Yes,
eh,
I
like,
did hear
this
about
is this
this.
is so it's so awful. So then they were like, "We need to kind of" like, everyone kind of knew, especially if you had gone to the residential school, like, you knew what was going on, but it just wasn't talked about. And I find now it's so much harder to, like, feel pride in how awful everyone was when Canada was starting out. But
So these are issues that both, Canada, the United States, other countries are all grappling with is, everybody's increased awareness of just human nature, things that humans do to each other. I guarantee that if you look back in history, the things that your ancestors went through would probably be gruesome.
yeah, absolutely.
And I kind of, because I am interested in this subject, and everyone listening is probably like, I came here to listen to these women talk about art, but we're going to talk about it because it's a thing. But there is a whole, like, in the schools in the United States, the children are now being educated pretty much across the board to kind of hate America.
Yep.
And I'm interested in a much, much, much more global, much more a longer time span, I guess. And I'm not so interested in hating. the United States and Canada.
Yeah.
I don't think that having, like, a ton of guilt for things that other people did is going to be healthy for our societies, and I'll just leave it at that, but there's a lot of guilt going on, a lot of real hatred being fostered for our countries, like, within our own countries, like, the rise of, like, youth hating our countries and our culture, and I'm just gonna put it on there for the record, I don't think it's healthy.
No, and I think that, like, it's important to acknowledge that it happened so that you don't do it again,
It's
right?
important to
Like
acknowledge it, it's
yeah,
important to definitely try not to do it again, but also to really understand the depth of human history. Like, you don't have to feel terrible that Canada exists. That's I again, this is
yeah,
very political, but I think it's a bad thing for society, for the youth to start feeling guilty that there is a United States of America or that there is a Canada.
yeah. Oh, for sure.
There's a lot more good that Canada has done and a lot more good that the United States has done, that the good still far outweighs the bad. So again, it's like I'm gonna leave the guilt for other people and I'm gonna appreciate like I've always felt incredibly lucky and incredibly blessed, like beyond belief to live my life in the United States of America, and I love my country. And I think Canada's amazing, like amazing. It's an amazing country, in my opinion. I've never lived there, but what I know of it, like, and all my friends who live there,
It's
it
great.
rocks.
Yeah, it's a great country. I would not wanna leave, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
And so anyway, okay. So all right. So you were born very close to where your grandparents were born, is what you're saying.
no, my grandma was born north of here, Fort something, I don't even remember, but that would have been, like, who knows, if she was in, like, the Fort Nelson maybe? I'm not sure, but it would be, like, an 11 or 12-hour drive north of me. BC is a
North.
huge, huge province. Yeah. So,
That's
it
pretty
it
far
would be a
north.
lot. It is, but it's still, like, within the province, so it feels like it should be close, and if you look at a map, you're like, "Oh, that isn't too bad," until you're like, "Oh, no, that would take a really long time." My sister used to live in Haida, which is an island off the coast of BC that's northern, sort of, like between Alaska and Vancouver Island, and we always said how, like, she was so far away, but she was still within BC, and then they moved to Smithers, and I was like, "But she's so close. She's only an 11-hour drive." It's actually that close. But it is way closer because we don't have to take a ferry or a plane to get there, so, yeah, just funny
I
how that
imagine that it must be very naturally beautiful where you live, is that correct?
yes, it's super beautiful. Never, stopped appreciating how beautiful the countryside is and the mountains and trees, and it's beautiful. There's so many lakes and rivers in BC. We definitely don't take for granted. It's
Have
beautiful.
you been to Alaska?
I have not been to Alaska.
How far are you from Alaska?
I don't know. My husband used to go on, like, road trips with his family in the summer, and they would drive up the coast to go to Alaska. But that would be like you'd be gone for, like, a couple weeks to do this camping trip. But
And it sounds like it's so beautiful, possibly where you live, that, like, you don't really need to drive for days to go somewhere
no.
beautiful. You're living in it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Kamloops is a semi-arid desert, so it's very dry, and climate change has made it even drier. So that's obviously not lovely. But they're like Kamloops means meeting of the rivers, and there's 2 rivers that join here, which is why it was like a historically important kind of village because of the, like, fur trade. There were rivers, right? That's how you moved through the country. So there's, like, Kamloops Lake, Thompson River, north and south, and lots of lakes nearby. I grew up for a long time spending a lot of time at my grandparents' farm, which is about like 45, 50 minutes away. And they had a creek running through their 40-acre property. And then my dad's family also has a cabin on the Shuswap, which is another lake that's sort of close to here. And that's like an hour. So pretty much an hour
Wow. So
either way
who
could get you to like the perfect, beautiful scenario of either like farmland and mountains and a creek and like animals, or the other side being like a huge, it's an enormous lake. Yeah, with like 4 or 5 arms, I believe. Like it's really large. And that's another like big destination that people go to. So I felt really lucky to have such a great childhood doing those things. And we didn't have to go far. So, you could pack up and go for the weekend.
Is the property that was your grandparents' farm still in your family, or did they sell the property?
No, we actually moved. My grandpa was still living there, and we moved him in, I'm going to say like 2016, maybe. It was before I had kids, and he did not want to downsize, but then realized that like running a 40-acre farm as like an 80-year-old is not really great anymore. So
No.
ended up moving into town to live in like assisted living, sort of, just like an
So,
apartment.
who in your life was crafty? Because I just imagine there's no way that you did not grow up with crafty people.
I think everyone was really crafty. My mom was extremely crafty. My grandma was into quilting and also just like creating. But I mean, you did create things before. Like people were always creating. You were making your own clothes. You were making everything. So,
So,
yeah.
were you taught to do quilting?
I actually decided to start quilting. I used to work at a fabric store and I really loved cutting out and like doing the math of like the seams and the triangles and all of that. But when I
Yeah.
went to actually sew it, I was like, well, this isn't really
Oh,
what I
that's
enjoy. I
interesting.
really liked planning it. I really liked like doing the graph work. But then when I came to actually make it, I was like, take it or leave it. But
Interesting.
my grandma on my dad's side, so my paternal grandma, used to go with her sister-in-law and they would like hit up antique shops or like thrift stores and refinish furniture for fun, which wasn't a thing then. Like in like the 40s and 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
just buy all this old furniture and then refinish it. And there's just all these stories of them hanging out together at the lake at the cabin and like driving into town. My great aunt had a convertible and they would like fill it up with furniture and bring it back and strip it and bring it back to its former glory. And then there was a bunch of
That's
stuff
really
at the
awesome.
cabin that my grandma had painted with like Q-tips. Like she painted details on things with whatever she had. So it was really neat to see like that creativity. She actually talked about how she wanted to use watercolors, but she was told by whatever teacher, which seems to be a very common story in anyone who's creative, that it was not like watercolors was not the way to go. And she thought that watercolors were great because they could like see the movement and be like more, in your soul of what's coming out versus like realism or hyper realism, which is what she ended up being told that that's like what she should be painting. So,
Yes.
but she wasn't a painter, she was a banker. So, kind of like had a bunch of kids. So, it was just a side hobby.
So what do you first remember as your first thing that you, like, really liked doing as far as crafts and arts?
Oh, yeah, all the time, everywhere, at any point. When we moved my grandpa, he had saved a bunch of, like, things that I didn't even know I'd made, and it was, like, napkins that I'd drawn on. We went to some restaurant, and I had a pen, so I drew on a napkin, and I took it home and kept it, and I was like, "My goodness, that's wild to me." But, yeah, I really loved it, so
Were you particularly like I just remember when I was a kid, I wanted a dollhouse, and we could not afford a dollhouse nor the furniture to go inside of it, and so I used to make my own dollhouse out of shoe boxes and furniture out of cardboard and little scraps of fabric that my mother had left over from her sewing project. So, like, what do you remember as a kid that you were really into?
I remember in the summer going to the lake, going to the cabin, and deciding that I wanted to, like, do woodworking, which was, like, such a like, I didn't know what I was doing, I was probably, like, 8 or 9 years old, and my dad was like, "Sure, we can do something," and then I, like, built a bench, and no one could sit on the bench because it was very poorly made because I was, like, 8 years old, but it held plants, and then I remember, like, just a couple years ago, we were like, "It's time to retire this really sad bench." That doesn't really hold up the plants anymore, but that was always fun, and it was always encouraged to, do what you wanna do. "You
When
wanna
you were
build
in
this? Yeah, go for it. You can build this, we'll figure it out, we can find
That's
stuff."
awesome. When
Yeah.
you were in school, did they have art class?
Yes, I did a lot of art in school. In my school district that I'm in, they used to do this young artists conference, so they would, like, judge elementary school age kids' art, and then you could go to this full day course to, like, learn different techniques. So, like, when I went I think I was in about grade 6, we went and I remember doing paper making, like, pulp blending, and then making thick, nice kind of like mulberry paper, and paper mache. And I know there was a third one, but I obviously didn't love the third one that much because I don't really remember it. But it was really neat because you got to go with all the other kids in the school district that also like loved creating, and you got to learn new techniques. So that was great. I really liked that.
Did you take art all the way through high school? Like, I remember when I was in high school, I took art for 1 year, but that was it. Did you take it all the way through?
Oh yeah, I took it all the way through. I actually at the end of the year in grade 12, so like the year you're graduating, the school would always buy a piece of art from the grad class as sort of like a bursary of like, we're going to give you this money. It's going to go in the library and you can use it towards university sort of thing. And I painted this enormous, it must have been like 3.5 by 5 feet canvas painting that they bought. I was like, "This is great because 'cause I'm not gonna fit this anywhere in my life. So you guys should take it and put it in the library." So, yeah, I was
Wow.
definitely into it, and that was the first time I'd, like, sold art. So that was also kind of neat and exciting that I sold this piece to the school, and it's still in the library in the high school. So,
No way. Okay,
yeah.
what was the subject of it? Or was it an abstract piece? Or was it a still life? Like, what was in the
It
painting?
In grade 11, we did a huge study on abstract, which is when I was like, "I love abstract. This is my favorite thing, definitely." And I remember my mom being like, "I'm glad you like this, but it's not my thing." Like, she really did not get it, right? And I was like, "It's okay. I love it. I love, like, surrealism. I love abstract kind of studies." And it was one where you draw a bunch of shapes, pretty much, like, the first one I had done in grade 11 was, like, a vase, stylized vase with flowers in it, and then you carry the lines so that there's kind of, like, cross lines the whole way through, and then you paint the picture, so in this case, like, the table, the vase, and the flowers in, say, like, cool tones of different colors, all these, like, triangles and shapes, and then the background is in warm colors. So it kind of is different, and you can see it, but it's not super obvious. And that's the same thing I did in this huge painting, except it was like musical instruments. So I was really into playing the guitar then. So I had this like huge guitar and like microphone and keyboard and all these things, and then had it where the instruments were in warm tones and then the background was in cool tones in this case. But like you look at it and you're just kind of seeing a bunch of shapes, but you have to like really look at it to see what's going on there, which I just loved. And I liked that I didn't have to do like shading and I got to paint in shape lines, like, I didn't have to worry about the details, similar to the, like, watercolor for relaxation. I found that a super relaxing thing to, like, just paint the shapes, right? So
Yes. And actually, I like on that note, let's talk about something very interesting that just happened to me today. So I have a newsletter. And I'm sure everybody who's listening probably is on the newsletter. I recently wrote in the newsletter and distributed today that when I close my eyes, I don't see like things dancing in front of my eyes. Like there's some artists that I've talked to before, ones that I've had on the podcast actually,
yep.
who say like, I say to them, like, "Where do you get the inspiration for your work? It's so fantastical." And they'll be like, "Oh, I just, like, imagine it in my imagination. Like, when I close my eyes, that's what I see." And I'm like, "Wow, when I close my eyes, I see nothing.
I'm the
I
same
just
way.
don't see anything." I'm like, "But I love art supplies, and I
Yeah.
love using them, and I love making stuff, but I don't have any preconceived vision of something that I'm trying to take from my brain and get out on a piece of paper. Like, that's never been a thing for me. And so I wrote about this in my newsletter and I got a DM from someone who actually said that the condition that I have is actually a condition of neurodivergence
Oh.
and that there's a name for it, which I'm gonna pull up and say what the name is. But I'm curious, Kate, now that I have you on the podcast, when you close your eyes, do you have like ideas for things you want to paint that just pop up in your imagination?
I have a sometimes photographic memory, and it's very bizarre because I will, like, be in school doing a test, and it'll ask me a question, and I will close my eyes and it will be like, I know where the paragraph is in the textbook that has this answer, but I can't read it in my mind. So it's like almost, it's a little bit blurry, but I would definitely know to look like where exactly to look for it. And it isn't all the time, but definitely like sometimes I will have a very clear picture of something in my mind that I'm 100% unable to put on paper. And it always
Oh,
fails.
but you have a
Like,
clear picture of it in your mind. So, like, if you were like, I'm closing my eyes and I'm visualizing this photograph that I saw of this dog, and now I'm going to translate the photo in my brain of the dog to a painting of a dog.
yeah, but I
Is
wouldn't be
that
able to
something
do
that
that.
people actually do?
I mean, I could in theory, but I don't think my skill is where I could actually do that. So that's why now I'm kind of like more into abstraction or maybe even just like non-objective, not like a direct copy of what is in my head, but just kind of like the feeling, if that makes sense, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't even have a feeling in my head that I wanna translate onto paper. Like, I wish I did. I wish I could say, "Oh, I'm having this feeling," and somehow it's translating into, like, something that I could express in a piece of art. And maybe I keep waiting for this to develop, but I don't know if it will. But I wanna tell you the name of the condition is aphantasia. Aphantasia.
Oh. Do you think in sentences or do you just talk and words come out?
I just talk and words come out.
Okay, because that I think is similarly related. Because I will have, like, a conversation in my brain, and then I will be answering questions in my head, and, like, with my husband, I'll be talking to him, and he'll be like, "I don't know what you're talking about because all of that conversation was in your brain, and you just gave me the last sentence." And then I've heard that there's
Wow.
people that, like, don't have conversations in their brain like that. So and I just can't even fathom what that would be like because my brain is very active, and I have hilarious conversations with myself.
That is wild. So
Yeah.
here's what I do feel like I know in my soul. It is that people's brains just work really differently. And like, at least for me, I appreciate and I accept that my brain does not work like other people's. Maybe it works like some other people's, but, just because one person is able to do something, it doesn't mean that I'm able to do something, but it also doesn't mean that there's anything necessarily wrong with me just because I can't envision fantastical visions of amazing paintings in my head to put onto a canvas. Like that doesn't preclude me from being an artist. Like I can do the things I can do and enjoy myself and live a life as an artist doing what I do.
Oh,
But it's
absolutely.
different than what other people do, and I oftentimes need visual, like, actually, I'm not gonna say oftentimes. I pretty much always need visual inspiration in order to inspire me to put something together. But once I have visual inspiration, I can fly.
Yep.
So, okay, and this, who knows, maybe we're gonna come back to this, but okay, so you're in high school, you're obviously a talented maker, you win the award, your painting is chosen, it's bought, it goes on the wall. What happens after high school?
I went to university and got a degree in science.
Okay, why?
Not even remotely art related. I did take photography in school, but that was like a lower level arts credit thing. I am a ridiculous overachiever and have that sometimes photographic memory. So there's lots of like, I love math, I love science, I love doing math and science. I had this personal goal that I always had to get over 90% in every course I went in. And like, that makes no sense because an A or like 4.0 in high school was, I think, 86%. But I was like, no, it doesn't count unless I have over 90, which was like just this stupid pressure on myself. And my parents weren't like putting that pressure on me. This was me putting that pressure on me. So, yeah, I decided that science was the way to go because that was gonna like give me a career. And that's what would have given my parents a career. So that was their advice was like go and get a degree and then you'll have so many options. So then I went in I was going to go into pharmacy until I discovered how much I don't like chemistry and then was like why would I want to do a career in chemistry when I don't really like chemistry? So I got a degree in biology in cellular molecular microbial biology.
Holy Moses.
So like genetics and bacteria and cells, that sort of thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so while you were in college, did you feel any sense of like, gosh, I really kind of miss making art?
I did do some weird projects that didn't require art because I wanted to do art. So, like, I think it was second year, maybe it was first year university, we had to break into our, like, seminar groups and do discussions about different organelles within a cell, and we were gonna do a discussion about cellulose, and I made this, like, giant the, like, floral foam, like, the green foam you can get? I, like,
Yeah.
carved into this green foam and made this giant cellulose molecule. It was so bizarre. And then yeah. So just, like, trying to work it in, and then similarly, in second year is when I started doing microbiology, and in our lab, we had to talk about what our favorite bacteria is and why. So I made a model, like, plushie pretty much, it was made out of fabric and sewn, of Pseudomonas aeruginosa, and, like, brought it to class and was like, "Here's my favorite bacteria. Look how cute it is. It has little, like, tail, it has flagella to move it." So, yeah,
Did it occur
definitely.
to you at all? And I'm going to bring this back to something that I could look to in my own life, but did it occur to you at all like maybe I'm enjoying making this three-dimensional model of a bacteria. Like, I'm enjoying the crafting part way too much, or
Oh,
were you
yeah.
still enjoying the science, learning the biology part so much that it didn't register like, why do I want to just craft?
I am I feel like I'm a very intense person for the most part, like intensely feel things, and I'm intensely excited about learning. So I think I was just like so enthralled in learning about the courses I was taking, especially as you get up in like higher levels, because you get to like specifically hone in on what you want to learn, that it was just like I'm enjoying everything. So I used to like do a lot of crochet and things on the side. Like I was always working on something, but it wasn't school related. So
Oh,
it
so
was
you were crocheting on the side, like all through college?
yeah, my sister bought me a how to crochet kit when I was 15, and I still crochet. I remember. It was like a bikini, and then when I was 15, I was like, "Why would anyone want to wear a crocheted bikini?" Because you would just see everything. Like, crochet stitches are not tight. So I
You'd have
made
to line it with like a block outliner.
something. I wouldn't have worn a bikini anyways, that's not like no, I like full coverage everything. But I was just actually looking at it the other so I made a bunch of granny squares. They had, like, 3 lessons in this it was a triangular prism box, I remember it being really bizarre, and you could do some sort of, like, single chain, some sort of double chain, and then the 3rd was, like, doing granny squares, and I decided to skip the first 2 because I'm sure I could handle it and went straight to the granny squares. And I still have some of the granny squares that I made. I use them as, like, hot pads, like trivets, sort of. Like, if my kids have something hot or cold. My kid had a freezy, and I put this granny square cloth that I made when I was 15 on it, and was like, "Here you go." It's like, "Oh, I did a pretty good job." So,
So
yeah.
after you graduated college, were you thinking like I'm going to get a job working with my biology?
Yeah, I did co-op during university, so you get extra credits in your degree and you go and work a job in the field. So I was even more ridiculous of an overachiever in university because the grade point average scale was out of 4.33. So if you got an A, you got 4.0, but if you got an A plus, you got 4.33. And I finished graduation, like finished university with a 4.25.
Impressive.
GPA. So it was, like, pretty much an A plus, but there were definitely some lower level courses that pulled me down.
Did you go
But
to graduate school?
no, I worked some jobs. I worked in a water microbiology lab, and that was really cool and gross because 'cause you're, like, testing, like, lake samples, and you see how much grows in, like, a teaspoon of lake water, and you're like, oh, I go swimming in that?" But Anyways, I actually ended up working there twice. So I did one job where we were just doing like water filtration, and then the next year I was doing the like plate analysis. And then I also worked in North America's only wildlife genetics lab, which is in Nelson, BC, which was also cool. So I did a bunch of tests on fur samples. I did this huge project on grizzly bears. They wanted to like know about the grizzly bear population within kind of like Pacific Northwest Canada, Alberta, Montana area. And
So
then
are
they
you
set up these
still
traps. Yeah.
are
And
you still working today in biology?
no, what ended up happening was I graduated and was getting really sick, and then decided that I was probably going to go to grad school, but I was also not wanting to be stressed out for my whole life. Like this was my big goal, was like this was really stressful. I put these super unrealistic expectations on myself to do like next level achieving, that it was just so stressful. Like I would, oh yeah, stay up all night. My best work time would be between like 1 and 4 a.m., and I'd be sleeping for like a couple hours in the morning and still going for like weeks on end. So I was
Oh
like, I
my
don't want
gosh.
to like clear mental illness happening at this point, but I don't want to be stressed out. Like I don't want to have a career where I'm always going to be focused on performing. And if I end up going with like a master's degree and then a PhD, then you kind of end up working at a university, but you're still being like hounded for results because you need to be like publishing papers and
Yes.
discovering things. And like it's interesting and I really like it, but it's really stressful. So I started getting sick, decided to kind of just work at a coffee shop for a while, and then ended up getting very sick. So my knees were hugely swollen. I was super nauseated all the time. And like my pants wouldn't fit with a knee brace over because like my knees were so wrecked. And I went to a bunch of different doctors who were like, it's got to be something in your knee joint that's like something happening, right? And then ended up doing blood work and going into the doctor who was like, you need to come in to discuss these results, which is like never what anyone wants to hear, that you can't tell me on the phone. You have to get me in here. And they said that I had lupus, which is an autoimmune disease, similar
And
to like
how old were
rheumatoid
you
arthritis.
at the time where you got diagnosed?
About 20, yeah, about 20 years old, which is
Are
when
you
lupus
comfortable letting us know how
happens.
old you are now?
I'm 40, turning 41. So this was
Okay.
like half my life ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then, like, your life probably radically changed at that
Yeah.
moment.
So I remember the day that I found out I had it, I worked at Starbucks, and I was gonna go and do a, like, closing shift, and I walked up the, like, drive to the store, and my friend who was there came out, and I told her, and I was just, like, bawling, and my boss is like, "What's going on? Who died?" I was just like, "No, this is awful. Like, this isn't something that I can cure." I thought that this was, like, a problem with my knee, I can get surgery and be better, but instead it was
Yeah.
kind of a realization of, like, this is gonna be the rest of my life, there's no cure. And then he was like, "Go
So,
home." Go home, Kate. Like, don't come to work. What are you doing? And I was like, no, I have to work. But yeah,
how does it impact your day-to-day life?
it mostly has been in remission since I got pregnant, but I have multiple chronic illnesses. So beyond having lupus, I also have fibromyalgia. I get costochondritis every summer.
What
Uh,
is that?
Costochondritis is when the costal cartilage in your ribs gets swollen. So it kind of feels like you're having like what I imagine would be a heart attack. You have like sharp chest pain that doesn't go away. And that's also something that like doesn't really have a cure. And then I also have endometriosis, which is another like they're all kind of autoimmune related.
Oh, I didn't realize endometriosis is related to the whole autoimmune thing.
I feel like everything is. Like, psoriasis is autoimmune, or at least my psoriasis is. So, it's all, like, my crappy immune system that likes attacking myself.
Is arthritis autoimmune?
It can be. Osteoarthritis is not. Rheumatoid arthritis is.
What's the difference between osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis?
Rheumatoid arthritis is your body attacking your joints. Osteoarthritis is, I think, something with, like, calcium in your bones. Osteo means bone.
Gotcha. I
So
need to
and,
find
like,
out because my hands are starting to, like, really hurt every single day.
yeah, it's hard. What actually ended up happening with me is that the lupus medication you take is really hard on your body. like really hard on your body. It's not an easy thing, right? Immunosuppressants aren't something that you take for fun. You take them for a reason. So I went and had to get x-rays done to make sure that everything was okay. And they were like, "Oh, we kind of see something on this x-ray. You should go get a CAT scan done." So then I went and got a CAT scan done and they were like, "Oh, we kind of see something on this CAT scan. You need to go get an MRI." So then I went and got an MRI and then they called me in and they were like, "You have a softball-sized tumor at the bottom of your esophagus between your lungs and we need to get this out." So,
What?
yeah. So any like plans I had to go and do school got dramatically thrown on hold as I had to go and get like this super giant thoracic surgery to get this enormous tumor out.
Wait, so this is after you graduate university,
Yeah.
or so after you graduate, you're working a job to relieve your stress, and while you're working this job, you get diagnosed with lupus and a huge tumor.
Yes, correct. And
How far apart were the two diagnoses?
I graduated in 2007 and I ended up having that thoracic surgery in April of 2008. So it's all
Oh,
within like about a year.
wow.
All of
So
this has
that
come down.
throws a huge curveball into any plans for
Yes.
life and the future and all of that stuff. So was it a malignant tumor or a benign tumor?
It was benign, it wasn't spreading, but they were not even gonna do a biopsy. They were like, "We need to get this out, or you won't be able to breathe or swallow, like, it's so massive, you need to get this out, so we'll just biopsy it when we remove it." And then they
So
biopsied it and they were like, "Oh, it's fine, it's not growing."
so after they removed it, was that like a problem solved? Like you've never had a recurrence of that?
No, I have a lot of, nerve damage where my scar is, which is, like, my whole
Yes.
back, pretty much, but no, that was it, it was done, and I'm very fortunate that they found it that way because I wasn't having any symptoms from it, so it could have just, like, continued to grow and probably killed me if I hadn't had the X-rays done.
Oh my
I
gosh,
wasn't
and
having any
you're saying
symptoms.
and you had the X-rays because of the lupus.
Yeah,
Wow.
it like, yeah, whatever it's called. Blessing in
So
disguise? Something like that, yeah.
during all this time where you're going to a lot of doctors, trying treatments, having surgery and all of this stuff, were you living at home with your parents? Like how did you
Yes.
support yourself?
Yeah, I was living at home with my parents. When I got the thoracic surgery, they told me that I had to be on modified bed rest for 3 months, to which I was like, "Oh, crap." Who the heck like, what am I gonna do as like a
Crochet. You're gonna
yeah, gonna
crochet.
do something. And then I decided at that point like, I did a lot of cross stitch when I was younger. My, like, mom made these enormous, beautiful cross stitch art pieces, like, from a pattern, not, like, making it up on her own, but, it's a huge amount of work to do these big, long, tedious projects. And I had done a few cross stitch things and decided at that point that I was gonna take up embroidery, and I was gonna make science-themed crafts and sell them on Etsy, which was pretty fresh in 2008. 'Cause I'm stuck here.
Science themed crafts.
Yes.
Okay, so give me an example of one science themed craft.
So, when I started doing them, I made finger puppets, this set of 5 finger puppets of famous scientists out of, like,
Oh
wool
my
felt.
god, this is
So,
so
there was,
cute.
like, Sir Isaac Newton, and Einstein, and Marie Curie, and Rosalind Franklin, and there was one other male that I'm now totally blanking on, but pretty much like this silly, very tiny stitched thing, and then I made these information cards about them, and then I opened up this Etsy shop and would sell these, like, very specific niche products that weren't
That
making
you
me
made by hand
that I made by hand. But
and
I
looked like these and they literally resembled these scientists?
yeah, well, like, they're kind of cartoony, but
Yeah,
yes.
like
Yeah,
cartoon Einstein in a finger puppet.
cartoon Einstein in a finger puppet, and then they had different I can't even remember what they were, man, that was a while ago, but yeah, so I started doing that, and then I did a bunch of embroidery on fabric and made them into little, like, coin purses that were embroidered. So I had, like, little microbes, like a little bacteriophage and a little bacillus, ciliated bacillus, and these little, like, cute germs that I anthropomorphized. So, like, it's cute because it has little wide-set eyes and a smile, and, like, everything did. So I made ones that were like squid and crab and, like, anything I was interested in that's kind of sciencey and then made it into something.
So this is wild. So how did you market these crafts?
So Etsy was so new at that point that I had a friend who did a graphic design degree, and she was like, I'm gonna make you a logo for your company and like make you business cards. And this is gonna be great. And then I would start posting them on Etsy. And I remember going to these like Etsy online support sort of meetings with the people that ran Etsy. It was way before Zoom was even a thing, but I remember going to these like forum things. And at one point, I got chosen to be one of the shops that they were going to critique. And it was like some executive in Etsy was telling me what I needed to fix in my shop to make it better. And it was pretty much that my photography was too dark. And that's like what I was lacking because I had a very specific niche market and my products were really well made, but like the photography just wasn't there. So that was really interesting. And then they ended up featuring me in one of their like weekly emails of like people to watch out for. So that's kind of where it started getting really busy. And then a friend of mine told me she was living in Kelowna, which is about 2-hour drive from here. And she told me about this craft show at a coffee shop that I should sign up for. And I was like, I don't have enough to like have a table at a craft show. And she's like, no, no, it's just like a little round, like coffee shop table, not a big table. Like you don't have to do much, but you should come and do it. You can stay with me. Like it'll be fun. I'll come and help you. So then I went and did that and sold like everything out that I had brought with me. And one of the women who found me there was someone who ran big craft shows in Kelowna. And she was like, you've got something way different than anybody else I've seen. We need to like get you into my craft shows that I do. So that was kind of my opening to taking it from just selling online to selling in person as well, which was really fun.
Were these things that you were making profitable enough for with you making them by hand, which is a thing, making something by hand, selling a handmade good. Was this profitable enough for you to be like, "Oh, I could make this like into a real business?"
I no, short answer, no. The amount of work I put in for like what the product was, like you can only charge so much for a set of felt finger puppets, right? Like no one's going to spend a huge amount of money on them. And the amount of hours that I spent making them was just like a labor of love. I liked making them. I liked selling them. I always thought whenever I sold something on Etsy, I was like, it's like this stranger's giving me a high five because I'm like, yeah, you love this too and you spent money on it. So I liked it, but like no, it was not profitable. I think I was charging $55 plus shipping US because Etsy was US at that point. I mean, I don't know if they sell other currencies now or not, but and that just wasn't like how many hours did it take me to build that? Way more than it would ever be profitable. So I was trying to come up with ideas of things that I could make that would be more of a like one-time effort than this like slow, painful process.
So this is sounding very, very reminiscent of when I was making handmade journals.
Yes, I imagine so. Because like, people just aren't willing to it's a, like, perceived value, right? So, it may have taken me, like, 2 days to build something, but I can't charge even if I was making, like, minimum wage, I can't charge, like, hundreds of dollars for this. So
Exactly.
yeah, so then I ended up going and starting to make, like, pin back buttons, like 1-inch little, like, badges that you wear. It's like a
Yeah.
stick coated thing, and I would draw whatever the thing is with, like, a Sharpie on a piece of paper and then scan it, and then I was dating my now husband then, and he had Photoshop because he went to art school and, like, used it, and I would go to his house and, like, painstakingly make these little drawings in, like, a bitmap, so, like, pixels, I would make them how I want them to look, and then pay a company to print them, and then I could sell them. And then it was like one time really painful effort of making the designs and getting it where I wanted it to be, but once that was made, it was just like sending a file. Somebody else is making them and then I could sell them.
So then it becomes more about marketing.
Yeah. And like looking back now, the amount of, like, effort I was going into making them was also kind of crazy. I mean, the technology that's available now is so much better than drawing with Sharpie on a piece of paper and scanning it, but that was what, I was comfortable with at the time. And then I ended up, buying a button-making machine and making them on my own, which was a lot easier, and but,
So
like, pretty much.
what was the art on there that made this a product that was interesting to other people where they would be like, "I wanna buy those buttons."
So I made, like, the famous scientists, I made into buttons, but I would also like, all you have to do is take the button thing off the edge on the back, and then they'd be magnets. So you could sell them as buttons or magnets, and lots of people would buy I ended up making these sets of 3. So, like, 3 microbes or 3, like, sea creatures or, like, sort of science related, but it's kind of stretching it. And then a lot of people would buy, like, the microbes. So you'd have these little, like, bacteria that are smiling and cute.
I could see, like, people, like, being with their spouse at an art fair, and, like, the husband's a scientist and
Yep,
kid likes science, and they walk by your booth and they're like, "Science and
yep,
art! Yay!
yep,
Let's buy the buttons!" Like,
yep. So, yeah, and then kind of just, like, kept expanding on that. I ended up buying like, that was a 1-inch button maker. I ended up buying a 2.25-inch, I think it is. And that one you could make into mirrors. You could put a mirror on the back and it'd be a little pocket mirror. And I would cut circles with pinking shears out of felt and like sew a little case for it. And I always get stuff stuck in my teeth. So I was like, this is so handy. So I don't have to like see when I have stuff stuck in my teeth. People always ask me what you were going to do with them. And I was like, I don't know. What do people do with a mirror? But just like similar, like it isn't hard to make them. And I already had the art drawn. So you could just kind of keep building on that.
so at what point in your story does your husband, who was not your husband at the time, but when does the boyfriend come in the picture?
We started dating in December of 2007. So he
When
was
you had already been diagnosed with lupus?
yes. And I found out in December I had to get the MRI to find out that I had the tumor. So it was like right in the heat of everything. And
He
then we
must
broke
be
up.
an incredible human being.
No, we did end up breaking up. We didn't last. We had broken up by the time I had surgery, but we were still friends for years. So,
And then you ended up getting married?
and then we ended up getting married years later.
That's
2010 is when we
incredible.
started officially dating again, but we were still friends. Like we did lots of stuff together, just not officially anything. So,
When you guys broke up, did you have this feeling, like, of devastation? Like, because he was really your person.
yes, I find that I am like eerily familiar or similar to his mom. She is a very arts and craftsy woman who has a degree in biochemistry. So I'm like, this is kind of weird. And you know how people always talk about like marrying your parents is what you end up
Yes,
going for? And I was
yes.
kind of like, this is weird, but like good. And his family was so, oh, it felt like a Leave It to Beaver family. He was going to school for a Bachelor of Fine Arts and living with his parents. He used to be an animator. He went to animation school and then worked for Teletoon for years in Halifax, so like east coast of Canada, and then came back to Kamloops and was getting his Bachelor of Fine Arts. I remember going over to his house and he'd be like, "Oh, my mom and dad came home. Let's go talk to them." And I was like, "Who are you?" Who wants to go talk to their parents? This is weird. But like, yeah, just different, just a really nice family.
You
Yeah,
made a good
they're really good
choice in
people.
marrying into a family like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. So it did I don't know. Now looking back now, I was so, like, mentally ill through all of this that I wasn't even, like, aware. Like, I look back on it with rose-colored glasses and think of, like, the nice things of it, but I was, like, severely depressed and anxious and, like,
Oh.
setting these things on myself. So, it was
It's
not,
amazing that
like
you were actually able to craft anything at that time.
yeah, and, like, I really enjoyed it. When I started doing craft shows, I started kind of leaning and making other things that I could mass produce. So, I'd make these little, like, vintage flower earrings, like stud earrings, and I bought this, like, doily what's her name? Martha Stewart punch, like paper punch, and I'd
Yeah.
make these cards and this packaging for these items, and I loved making the packaging. Like, that was another whole like, it was similar to the enjoying cutting out quilts. I get to plan it, I get to do my, like, math of how big it's gonna be, and this is where the punch is gonna go. I'm gonna put holes here for this, and I'll put my Etsy website on the back and, like, everything.
Yeah.
So I
Like
ended up kind of
designing the
going
packaging, like,
yeah,
yeah,
and
how you're
then
gonna print it, how you're gonna cut it, how you're gonna fold it, then you're gonna, like, actually execute it and package it all up so you can show it at the show. So,
yeah.
were you doing multiple shows per year?
There were 2 with this woman, Rio Branner, who was running these amazing they were called, like, Fabulous Finds. She did these shows in a winery where it was, like, crafts that people made that she had, like, handpicked. So it was, like, the cream of the crop of what she liked, or at least that's what it felt like. I felt so fortunate that I got chosen to be in this group, and there was also people that were selling random, like, vintage things. There was
That's
one who
cool.
did, like, selling buttons. She brought this huge, like, print dresser, with, like, the tiny thin drawers,
Yeah.
full of, like, vintage buttons that you could buy, and there's people that were
Whoa.
selling, like, vintage jewelry. So it was like a mix of items that were just like, I wanted to buy everything at every stall.
'Cause it
Like, I
was so
definitely
curated
it
by
was
this
so
woman with,
good.
like,
Yeah.
extraordinary taste.
Yeah, and she used to do markets in Victoria, BC, which is another, like, really artsy town. So she had, like, taken this and come to Kelowna and was like, "We need to have this same similar market," and opened that market, so I was doing that twice a year. It
And then
was
so the rest of the time, were you just producing product so that you would have enough product to sell twice a
at
year?
yeah,
Or
pretty much, and then I started doing, like, farmers market, like, little markets in between, but I was always trying to make them low cost enough that it would be worth my while because most of the stuff I was making was so, like, low value. Like, things were costing, like, 3, 4, 5, like, under $10, a lot of it. So you need to
yeah.
sell a lot of that in order to, like, make money off of it, and lots of craft shows cost a couple $100 to get in to, like, buy
Yeah.
a table. So I'm like, "How much do I need to sell and make and
A
bring
lot.
to make money off of this?" kind of thing. It was a lot. So, yeah, it just kind of kept and I kept, like, thinking of new things I wanted to make and, always, like, expanding and creating and just playing around. It was a lot of fun.
So, did you stay living with your parents the entire time you were doing these craft shows?
Yes, and I ended up moving out with Fraser, my now husband or boyfriend, in 2010, and he would come and do the craft shows in Kelowna with me at this winery, and, it was like it was a Friday evening and then this next Saturday, so you'd have to go in and stay overnight, and, it was like his worst nightmare. These, like, kind of drunken middle-aged women that, were checking out the craft show, but it was a lot of fun.
What was his job at the time?
He was pretty much just, like, passing me stuff to restock the table because everything was so, like, small, we were always restocking, and
No,
he
I
was
mean, like,
like
what was he doing to earn a living? Like, what was he
oh,
doing
what
as
was
a
he
day
doing?
job?
His dad was a dentist, and he did instrument sterilization.
He went to art school.
He went to art school, he finished art school and was like, "I'm gonna become a teacher." Did a bunch of instrument sterilization, which was great, like, that was a really good job, and he was good at it, so that was good, and then he went to go to become a teacher. So we ended
Is
up moving to Victoria together for a couple years, and he went to UVic and got Bachelor of Education.
Oh, so you did get an opportunity to live in Victoria.
Yes. So we lived there for 2 years, and it was amazing, and I got to
Oh,
do the market that Rio used to work with, the Bastion Square Market in downtown Victoria, and that's when I, like, bought a tent and was like, "Okay, gonna do this."
oh, you
Every
really did
Sunday.
this.
Yeah, and every Sunday I would go when the weather was nice enough, like, I think it was just spring, summertime, and go and do this market in downtown Victoria.
Every weekend in the summer, they have a market that people come
Yeah, it's
to and you
outside.
can wow, every
Yeah.
weekend?
Every Sunday, yeah. I imagine it's still going. It was like Bastion Square Market. It's kind of like this street that's sort of like a back alley behind the main drag, but it's all like brick and beautiful. Yeah, they have like 2 streets long of all these people that come and set up and sell. And
So you
Victoria's
were
such
really
a
a working artist craftsperson.
Yes, but I still working at Starbucks the whole
Oh,
time.
oh, you were. Okay,
Yeah, but
hold
at
on.
Starbucks
This whole
yeah,
time? So this whole time getting sick, getting the diagnosis with lupus, going through having the surgery on your chest, all through that you're working at Starbucks.
I am, and Starbucks gave you health benefits, like extended benefits, if you worked part-time. So I would only have to work 20 hours a week in order to get benefits. So I was like, "I can't quit this job because I can work, like, 4 5-hour shifts, which my body can sort of handle, and I can still get, like, 90% of my extremely expensive medication paid for." Because, like, my medication was like I don't know, $250 a month? If I was paying it out of pocket, and that's, like, a huge amount of money. That was one medication I was taking. Like, I needed to I needed to work somewhere with benefits. So,
Yeah.
it was just, like, I ended up working there for 7 years, this whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you get married while you were working at Starbucks?
The summer we got married, Fraser had graduated from his Bachelor of Education, we were gonna move back to Kamloops. I got costochondritis for the first time, and I was on sick leave when we got married. So, because I was, like yeah, straight to the hospital in Victoria because I was sure I was, like, having heart failure. It was
Okay,
so,
so
like, sharp pain.
explain again what that is because I'm not sure if we recorded when you explained what that is. Say the name of it
Oh,
again.
costochondritis, it's a when the costal cartilage, so the cartilage that's, like, lining your ribs gets swollen and, yeah, super painful. So
Is this like a pain that you get, it comes on and then it just persists for hours on end, or is it
yeah,
something that just
it's kind of like a wave. Like, I get it almost every summer when it gets hot, because like, you're getting hot and everything's getting swollen anyways, and the only, like, treatment I have is to, like, stick an ice pack down my bra and hang out with an ice pack to, like, help the swelling go down, but
wow.
that's awful. It's not fun.
So
So at that point,
is
yeah.
this related to lupus?
No, it's just like another autoimmune thing. When I
Okay.
ended up with lupus and all of these problems and fibromyalgia, and there's such a, like, unclear definition of, like, what is lupus and what is fibromyalgia, like, they overlap enough that you're not sure what you're really treating. I did all these different drug trials and different things to try and get it kind of under control,
Does
and,
anything
yeah,
ever help?
not really. Like, I mean, medication helps for sure.
Oh, it does, like,
Um
you get relief from the
I
symptoms?
sort of, but, like, I'm always in pain. It's chronic pain.
I'm now
So,
pretty much always in pain also, but I don't go
yeah.
to the doctor.
No, and honestly, it has been going on for 20 years, and I've seen how many specialists and doctors and surgeries and all these things, and, like, I don't have any faith that it's ever gonna get better. Like,
This
it's
is why I
really
don't go to the
depressing.
doctor.
Yeah, and this is also why, like, clearly I have a lot of mental illness because that's just really straining on you. Like, it's really hard,
Yes.
to just
But
be
you
sick all
seem
the
like an
time.
incredibly happy human being.
I pride myself on how resilient I am. It's funny, I had really bad postpartum psychosis when I had my daughter, and I went through the perinatal, like, mental health program in town, and I saw, like, psychiatric nurse counselor as well as the psychiatrist, and I would go in and, like, everything was falling apart in my life, and they were like, "You're so pleasant and resilient, like, you're so nice to talk to." I'm like, "Yeah, but everything's falling apart in my life, but I'm just trying to, like, keep going." So
Was it your health that was falling apart?
oh, so
Was
at
it
that point, my when I was sick in university, my grandma had Alzheimer's and had passed away. My grandma that had the farm that I, like, spent my childhood being raised by her on this farm, and that was super hard to deal with. And then when we ended up moving back from Victoria to Kamloops, it was because my mom had early onset Alzheimer's.
Oh
So
my
it was kind of a,
gosh.
like, we're
Okay.
coming in to help out because my dad is also, like, trying to deal with this, and it's really hard. And then, like, at the point she went into care in 2016, maybe it was 2015, something like that, and, like, by the time I was pregnant, she didn't know who I was anymore. Like, it was really hard, and then she died
Oh my
about
god.
6 months after my daughter was born. So, like, my daughter was
Wait,
born
did you
end of
say she
January.
passed?
Yeah,
She pa she
she
passed just
passed
6 months?
when my daughter was 6 months old. So, like,
How old was your
daughter was
mom?
born and she was 63, I think, maybe 64, but pretty young. Yeah, so, like, my daughter was born in January, end of January, my mom died in the middle of July, so, like, half a year later, and so I was
Okay.
seeing these therapists, like, the psychiatrist this whole time. I remember going in to see the counselor, and she's like, "Oh, what's happening this week?" Because I was so mentally ill from, like, having a really hard time with a baby, like, your hormones and everything that's going on, and I was also struggling with, like, I'm doing this on my own. I don't have, like, a mom here to help me, which is what everyone else seems to have when you go to, like, prenatal classes is you've got this, like, family support. My sister didn't live anywhere near me. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was so, like, upset about the Alzheimer's that I was like, "I'm aging and we need to have kids. I know my husband wants to have kids, like, let's have kids." And then I had 2 miscarriages and was like, "Well, I'm never having kids because that's just not gonna happen, I'm too sick." And then, like, a month later was pregnant and was like, "Oh, never mind. Maybe I can have kids." Wasn't thought out. It was just, like, a really not great time. Yeah.
So you have been through a lot.
Yes. And then when I did become pregnant, unsurprisingly, I got hyperemesis, where you, like, vomit 10 times a day for the entire pregnancy.
My God.
Never ends. But the lupus went into remission when I was pregnant, so I was like, "This is great."
So is
I
that
can
a thing that is like a known thing that sometimes lupus goes into remission?
I don't know. I think so. I mean, I saw a lot of different rheumatologists, saw a lot of different people during all of this time. I mean,
So
it was
during
good.
all of this, your mother's terrible illness, you throwing up all the time,
Yeah.
are you continuing to work at Starbucks?
When we got married, I ended up quitting Starbucks in the winter time to go and work at Fraser's dad's dental office as, like, front end reception. And I was like, "This is gonna be great because I won't be on my feet anymore." And I'm very, like, mathematically inclined. I will happily do, like, accounting and everything, and then I get to sit and, like, work on math, which is, like, kind of my dream job other than creating. So, yeah, so I was working at the dental office at that point.
And you have more than one child, right?
I do. So
So
I
I'm
was
curious how you ended up deciding to get pregnant again after your first pregnancy, you were puking 10 times a day.
yeah, it was so bad. I lost so much weight. Like, thankfully, I'm not a small person. Because my body grew this baby very well despite not really taking anything in. I was so sick. Actually, when I went into labor, my water had broke and I was at like 36, 37 weeks. So, like, full term, but like just. And then I remember going into the hospital and I was like, this will be great. The baby's going to come out and I won't be throwing up anymore. And I threw up with every contraction for 38 hours
Oh my
of
God.
active labor, and I remember, like, my husband was sleeping in the room, and I was really angry at him for sleeping, but, like, it makes sense. He's not actually doing anything, this is all me, and throwing up so much, and then she was born, and, a couple weeks before I had her, I had to go do an ultrasound because they thought there was something wrong with her head, and I remember them being like, "There could be some weird, like, growth." So now I'm, like, extra anxious that this kid's gonna be messed up. And she came out and she was just really hairy. It was her hair. She had this huge head of hair. That's what
I was a
survived this
really hairy
ultrasound.
baby too.
Yeah. So I was just like, "Okay, this is fine." And then the day after, like, they're born, and then you're like, "Well, that was exhausting because 'cause I've just been up for, like, over 24 hours." I was up for that long during labor. And then I went to my room and was like, "Oh, okay, it's over, it'll be great. I'm gonna, like, start breastfeeding." And then the next day, I started vomiting blood and continued to vomit blood until they sedated me pretty much. It was, like, 6 hours of vomiting blood.
Wait,
And
what was the cause of you vomiting blood?
so what had happened, which we found out later, was that during labor, I was throwing up so much that I, like, tore my stomach. So my stomach was filling with blood at that point, and then the next day, I had, like, all of this blood left in my stomach that was what I was throwing up. So it was, like, dark. It wasn't, like, fresh blood. It was, like, dark
Yeah.
brown, whatever blood.
Wow. And given all this, you decide to get pregnant
I
again.
know. At that point, I was legitimately like, "This is it. This is how I die. Like, this is it for sure. I'm guaranteed this is like there's nothing worse than this."
When you were throwing up the
When I was
blood.
throwing up the blood, and I had 2 friends there My like best friend Lindsay and my friend Christine, who's an occupational therapist. I'm so happy they were there because they were like putting like cool cloths on my back and like helping me. Like they couldn't get an IV in me because I was so dehydrated from throwing up all this. Like they really, man, super happy that I have such great people in my life. But yeah, it was not good. So, and then I was super ill, like mentally when I had this baby. Yeah, it wasn't great. Then my grandpa, who grew up as a single child in Winnipeg in like the 20s, 30s, was an only child and was always like, you can't have an only child ever. No one needs to have an only child. He had this terrible childhood. His parents divorced, which definitely did not happen in like the 20s, and was like, you have to have another kid. So it was kind of like a given that everyone needed to have another kid because you can't have an only child. So I told Fraser when I like got my period back that we would start trying for another kid. And then because I was breastfeeding, I didn't get my period back for like 14 months or something. And then I got my period back and then I got pregnant the first time. Like the second I got my period back, I was pregnant again. I was like, oh, well.
Did you did during the did you ever get to a point where you were feeling both mentally and physically healthier?
I was starting to feel better. Coincidentally, my dad had a brain tumor and had to go get proton radiation in Seattle. So we like took my whatever 12-month-old baby and went to Seattle to help my dad with his cancer treatment. So like even if I was sort of feeling better, I was still dealing with my mom failing health and my dad now dealing with this chordoma. So it was just a lot.
So during this whole thing, you're a new mother, your parents are very ill, dying, your health is not good. Are you creating at all?
I was still had the Etsy shop that I was running. I was kind of stepping back. I wasn't listing as much and making new things, but I did do a couple of big craft shows when my daughter was young. And I remember being like, this is so much easier than when I was pregnant. Because when I was pregnant, I couldn't bend over without throwing up. And I'd have all these like bins of product under my table that I couldn't reach because I couldn't bend over without throwing up. So it felt really great when I had a kid and was like, yeah, this is awesome. I can bend over and not vomit, which I guess is pretty low
I'm
bar.
I'm very impressed by what you are able to endure and yet continue to work and
Yeah.
create.
And like it was kind of like a solace is the like creating was what kind of kept me sane. Like that's what I wanted to do.
I
So
get it because I think after the events of almost 2 years ago that happened in the world that directly impact the culture that I'm from, like,
yep.
I would be certifiably insane if I wasn't creating every day.
Yeah, and that was kind of it, is that I put my Etsy shop oh, geez. I also used to run a daily blog where I unrealistically set this expectation that I would do a new blog post every day, and I
Okay, a
think I
blog
did
post
that for,
takes like
like,
4 or
5
5
years.
hours.
Yeah, it was ridiculous, and I remember being sick, and my friend Lindsay would, like, take over for me, and I'd be like, "Lindsay, I can't write a blog post. Can you write some for me?" And I'm like, "Who's even reading this?" Like,
What
it's
were you blogging about?
um, everything. It was just like my hobbies and interests and things that I'd done and things that I'd made and like how I do my packaging or just like some random site that I really like. I have like very specific hobbies in enjoying like vintage bed sheets and Pyrex and like
Yes,
dolphins and pom poms. And it was
yes.
always like, what cool pom pom doily Pyrex thing I would come up with, or like I made this cover for a lamp that was granny squares. Like I made this square lamp and it kind of looks like these little flowers on it. And I'd be like, oh, I've made this and now I'm going to take a bunch of pictures of it and post it on my blog.
What was the name of your blog?
So my name on Etsy was Scientific Culture. So my blog was like scientificculture.blogspot.com.
And what happened to this blog?
So when everything started falling apart, I stopped posting as much. And then I think I posted something about like my mom having Alzheimer's when I was just like so upset and needed to get it out. And I remember my dad being like, I read your blog post and it was really sad. And I was like, well, I'm feeling really sad. Like this is a really sad time. And I think the last blog post I did was like, this is what I'm up to. Here's a picture of my baby. And that was it. So like 2017.
And did you just delete the blog?
No, the blog's still there. You could probably go read it. Oh, I do have it. It is scientific-culture.blogspot.com.
Oh my God, this is
I've
so
just
fun.
opened it.
Okay.
It did. See, last was my update
Scientificculture.blogspot.com.
.com. And you see my little, like, glassware of the little,
Oh my God,
scientific things.
this
So,
is
yeah,
so cute.
smiling, cute things with nice muted tones because I love color mixing.
Okay, so let's talk about color. Let's bring this back. Let's bring this back. Okay, so I know what your favorite colors are.
They're very
Ex-
similar to your favorite colors.
yes, they are.
Yep.
But I can tend to go like crazy with pink, where you typically don't,
No.
and you typically stay focused on the blues and the greens. But let's talk about what your favorite colors are and why.
So, funnily enough, when I was a kid, I had such a fun time mixing colors and making colors that my parents used to call me the color police. And if they were like going to pick out like a paint color or like a couch or like an outfit to go to a Christmas party, it was always like you have to run it by the color police because she's going to tell you what you need to do with your outfit with this color. So it was like lifelong obsession with color pretty much. And as I was saying with my like sort of hobbies that I love to go to garage sales with my mom as a kid and find like the gaudiest floral 60s bedsheet, whatever. And I just loved those like greens and turquoises as well. Also, because I have red hair, I was always best dressed in blue and green as like a contrast to my hair. And it just kind of like grew on me that I really liked the greens and blues. And then throw in the like turquoise butter print Pyrex that I grew up with on the farm, and I'm just like, I love those colors so much, and I
Okay,
still love.
so it does go back to happy childhood memories.
Yes, absolutely, and I remember, like, at the cabin on the shoe swap, there's lots of, like, people who have summer cabins, and the stuff that they have in the summer cabin is always, like, the rejected old stuff that you just take to the cabin, right? So in, like, the early '90s, lots of the garage sales would be, like, cool stuff from, like, the '60s and '70s that people would be like, "This is garbage, this isn't in style anymore." But now I was like, "This is great." I remember trying to pick out, like, the ugliest, but, like, I love it, floral pillowcase to use when we went to the lake. I was like, "Yeah, gotta pick, like, the most gaudy floral print possible," and just, like, loving it, and I'm still the exact same, all, like, 30 years later. I still love those so much. I have bins of old sheets in the basement that
I
I
love
was
old
like.
sheets.
Yeah.
So you are amazing. Like, I'm looking at your blog. I'm
You can see
going
how
to take
hairy my daughter was. She had a huge full head of hair.
like I said, I had a huge head of hair when I was born, so I'm not gonna pass any judgment on a hairy
Yep.
baby. Um, you are wildly amazing. Did you do all these embroidery hoops?
Yes, that's what I ended up going into was doing embroidery hoop art because it was something where, like, I was embroidering before, but I was putting it into products, like making little coin purses, but then you can't really sell them for very much, and it's a huge amount of work to make a little coin purse. So then I found out that you could just, like, glue your fabric into your hoop and stick it on a wall, and now this is, like, "art," quote, unquote, and you can sell it for more, so I'm gonna make it, like, higher profit for how much work I put into it. But also, like, it's still slave labor. I would go to the farmer's market and someone would be like, "You're charging $35 for this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, well, it took me 6 hours, so
Yeah. So
sorry."
wait,
Like,
all of these embroidery hoops that have text,
yeah, I
is the
cut those out.
text all in hand embroidered?
No, I used well, some of it is, yes, but I bought a, like, Sizzix Big Shot whatever cutter and, like, this
Uh-huh.
Tim Holtz alphabet in capital and lowercase letters, so I would cut them out of felt and then stitch them on.
Oh, but so they were stitched on.
So they were stitched on. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, you're killing me.
Yeah.
First of all, I have a lot of these sheets. Just
Yeah.
oh my God. But your expression, home is where the pants aren't.
Oh, yeah. And that was such a huge thing that is now, like, really, like, frowned upon. I've heard all the, like, whatever, Gen Z, like, newer, not millennial culture is like, "I can't believe you'd have writings on your wall." It's such a, like, cringy thing. And I'm
I know
like, I
what
love writings on my wall.
you mean
Absolutely.
that text art, having
Yeah.
text as your art has become uncool.
Yeah. Whereas I like it, so I don't
I
care
don't give
how
a
cool it
fuck.
is.
I don't give a fuck, Kate.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
don't give a fuck if it's not cool because these are the coolest things I ever saw.
I still have them in the basement, I'm
Take
sure.
your meds. I
Stuff.
hate you the least. Maybe swearing will help. This is so me.
It was fun. And I loved, like, finding fabric. Like, that was
Okay,
part of it too. I got to go to quilt shops and I'd buy cool
yes,
quilt
finding
patterns.
fabric. Okay, you're
Yeah.
blowing my effing mind with how creative you are. So, what on earth? How do you end up in fodder school?
So, in 2023, so I'm like, I've had the second kid. I've also, like, I also had hyperemesis for my son's pregnancy. I actually ended up having to be hospitalized because I was losing so much weight, throwing up so much that they were like, "This is the only thing we can do for you." And then they were like, "The only way you're gonna get over this is giving birth, so we're gonna induce you at, like, 36 end of 36 weeks kinda thing to get this baby out," which was actually really good because both of my kids were about 8 pounds at 37 weeks. So, if I had waited to, like, 40, I wouldn't have been able to vaginally deliver them. And they had huge heads. We have a large-headed family. So
I asked you how you ended up in fodder school.
Oh, Fodder School, yes. So, this whole time, I had been struggling mentally doing I had postpartum psychosis the second time that I had my son as well, so I went back to the same psychiatrist, and discovered at one point in 2022, Judy Woods did these free, like, art week-long lessons course on creating, like, abstract art. And I was like, "I'm gonna sign up for this and try it." And I did and was like, "This is so much fun. I need to do art again." I haven't been doing art. I haven't been doing anything. I've had kids. I'm a slave to these children. I had 3 surgeries 3 summers in a row when my kids were young, which is also when I found out that I had endometriosis, which I'd had my whole life, but because the other women in my life also had endometriosis, I didn't know that, like, vomiting for 5 days every month of your life isn't normal. I was just like, "That's just what happens. That's what happens when you get your period." But no, it's not normal. I had stage 3 endometriosis. So, I did that little, like, free taster course and really liked it, and then found out about art journaling and was like, "This is actually what I wanna do, because now I can just make whatever I want and no one needs to see it if it sucks." So that was,
Which
like,
is
it.
quite different. Now I see what kind of business you were running.
Yeah.
Like, people should definitely go to your blog. They really need to appreciate who you are as an artist
Yeah, and
because
there's so much, like, rainbow themed. I really love rainbows as color. Like,
but,
that was
like,
a huge
you
part of it.
are a perfectionist.
Oh, yes.
You were running, like, a mega craft business. Like, you had a lot of different products. What you made was a very high quality. Yeah, so creating for yourself, that's quite a change.
Yeah, and same with, like, I had been blogging for so long that every time I made something, I posted about it. So, like, doing a art journal thing for me was, like, totally different. I can do this, and it's okay if it's awful, because I don't need to show it to anyone. And it's not like anyone was telling me that I had to show everything. It was just that I put this pressure on myself to share everything. So it was just kind of a like, I'm gonna try this. And then I signed up for Wanderlust in 2023 and started doing art journaling every week. And then about halfway through the year, I found out about Fodder School on Instagram and then was like, well, maybe I need to do this as well. And then that's history. I haven't been able to stop. Yeah.
I feel so blessed, like incredibly blessed that you found this little corner of the internet that is Fodder School and that you decided to join us because you have been one of the star artists and you pretty much almost always show up for the live Zooms. You're incredibly inspired and inspiring. It's like the perfect balance of participation, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
you're not just doing it, you're giving back all the time in inspiring everybody else with how you're showing up to do it. And now that I've interviewed you, it all makes sense. I
Yeah. And
did
like,
not understand anything about who you were until we
yeah.
did this interview.
Yeah. And like, I really like learning from people to try things that I wouldn't normally try.
Me
And
too.
that's like when I started with Wanderlust, it would be like, we're going to do this thing on chalk pastels or soft pastels. And I was like, I used those in maybe high school, but I don't know anything about it. And then
Yeah.
just going in and being able to dive into things like blind and be like, this doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to try and see what happens. And I always end up finding something that I love. And I
You
always
always do.
making something that I really, like, love. And even projects where I'm like, "I'm not gonna like this. This isn't what I do. I don't draw people," or whatever it is. And then you try it and you're like, "Oh, no, this was great."
I am so happy that
Yeah,
we drew people. I never would have done that if it wasn't for what we did. And now I'm finding that those people are showing up in places that are unexpected and I have way less fear around it and I actually am starting to look forward to opportunities to draw people and I never would have done that.
yeah, yeah. And it's weird how, like, much it changes you in a way. I try really hard to lean into the unpredictable. So, like, gel printing is such a huge part of creating fodder, and you never really know how it's gonna turn out. And that's, like, exciting and scary, sort of, when you're a perfectionist and you want it to turn out a certain way. But just, like, going in and playing and seeing what happens. And, like, maybe it's gonna be bad, but whatever, throw it in the recycling, keep going. And then those wonderful moments when you've created something magical. When I was filming the lessons for Fodder School 5, I, like, would be rewatching them to edit them to do the voiceover, and I would hear my, like, very honest reactions to things where I would be like, "Oh, look at this. Oh," like, text whatever that happened with it and just being so excited. So it's just, like, it's magical. It's wonderful, the amazing things that can come, and just trying it and seeing what happens. So
You are a
mhm.
magical human being. And I cannot even begin to tell you how much I appreciate you and how much of a miracle you are.
Oh, well,
Get,
thank you.
like now knowing what you deal with on a day-to-day basis, what you've overcome in your life, how freaking beautiful of a human you are, how incredible your art is. I just feel very, very blessed to know you and very, very blessed that you said yes when we offered you a position teaching in Fodder School. And I feel like after this conversation, I just want to work more with you.
Well, that is wonderful. I feel like it was total imposter syndrome. I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I why is she coming to me? I don't get it. But I
Wait,
have
seriously? That's
yeah,
really what you
actually,
thought?
because I was like, I started in 2023. It's 2025 now. I'm like, I haven't been doing this long, but I have been doing other things for my
Oh
entire
my
life.
God.
But I
Okay,
was like,
Kate.
yeah, I haven't been creating art. Like I sold
You are
something in
totally an artist
2002.
in your
That was a long
own
time ago.
right. You've been a working artist for like your whole adult life.
Yeah. It's just yeah, I don't know. It's lots of, I think that everyone gets that, like, imposter syndrome because you see
Yes,
someone who's
everyone does.
doing
I still
yeah,
suffer from it on a daily basis.
yeah. So, it's interesting, but, like, I really love sharing it. I love, like, Far School's Facebook group, and I will go into, like, long rambling explanations of whatever feelings I have about the thing I printed or made, and then people will be like, "This is great. Thanks for sharing this." And I'm like, "And it was therapy for me." Like, it's good to get those things out. Makes me process what I went through when I was making whatever the art was and how great it was and what I appreciate about it. So, yeah, it's nice.
Wow. All right. Well, we've been on for a while, and I think I probably could talk to you for 2 more hours, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe this won't be the last, in this series. We'll see. I
It's been a
loved
joy.
interviewing you, and I feel again, like I just know you so much better now and can't even believe what a miracle you are. So, thank you. Thanks for
Well, thank
saying yes.
you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually thought I was like, "What am I even gonna talk about?" But apparently I have a lot to talk about.
I feel like I would just keep going if I didn't have this meeting. I
Yeah.
almost feel bad. But okay, we'll save it for another time. We'll save it for
Sounds
another
good.
interview. There'll be another interview. You were fairy gardening. I was fairy gardening. Oh, okay.
Of course.
You know about Ickle and Lardy? Do you know about my milk tooth?
No.
Okay, you
I'm gonna have
have
to
to
look it
look
up.
up my milk tooth. T. Let me see how you spell it. My milk tooth. Okay. I know you're gonna love it. My
Oh,
milk tooth. Oh,
yes,
TOOF.
it's a book.
My
Oh, yes, I do know about this. I just didn't know what it was called.
okay. My kids and I were obsessed.
Very coincidentally, I used to make a lot of things out of Sculpey, like polymer clay, and I used to make these little love robots, and I made this little polymer clay robot, and I named him Al, and I made a bunch of them so that I could do like still pictures to tell stories with this robot for my blog, and it never happened. But very similarly, I was like, I'm gonna do this because this is the kind of weird shit I'm into.
Yes, and
So yeah, absolutely.
I totally
100%.
get you. I'm totally
Yeah.
tracking with you. Okay, all right. Thank you. To be continued.
Yes, wonderful. Thanks,
Okay.
Wendy. Thanks.
Bye, Kate.
Bye.